It is the weekend, which means that it's time to talk travel. Welcome to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. Coming up on today's show, we will be talking about the U.S. Virgin Islands. Nikki and I will be there shortly. A flight deal to Australia and count them, 5 great cruise deals this week. Let's start the show. The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, contains travel deals, promotions, and offers that may be time sensitive. All offers and information were accurate when the show aired. Travel deals and offers change constantly and are capacity controlled and subject to change without notice.
Explore your world. It's the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Call or text the show now, 801-649-3700, 801-649-3700, and check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. And now, here are your hosts, Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo.
It's the weekend, which means that it is time to talk about travel. Hello there. I'm Patrick Wiscombe. You are listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. Thank you for taking the time to stop and listen. And if you are brand new to the show, or even if you're a longtime listener for the last year and a half, the entire purpose of this radio and podcast is to help you plan and book your next vacation, or just give you ideas of where you want to go on vacation next. And we are presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. I always love talking travel. Mark Faldmo joins me in the Wiscombe Faldmo radio studio. How are you? I haven't seen you all week. I haven't even talked to you.
Yep, I'm good. Kind of recovering from earlier this week when we were in the mid 60s, but we're back down to the mid to low 30s now.
Even if it was just a few days, 4 or 5 days in the 50s and 60s, that was nice.
I went out and did some yard cleanup, so I did yard work last week.
Coming up in this first segment of the show, we've got the travel news, and of course, we always have the destination highlight. And this week, we're talking about the U.S. Virgin Islands. Nikki and I will be there next month. Very, very excited to go. Nikki and I are going there, right?
You are going there, yes.
Okay. Make sure that that's one of the Virgin Islands.
Yes, it is.
Let's first get to the travel news headlines. I thought that this story was significant in the travel world. Celebrity Cruises has announced that they're going to launch river cruising. That is a big deal.
That is. And I was very surprised when I saw this. I've been thinking about this over the last few days when this news was announced. I think Celebrity is probably the best ocean cruise line that was the best positioned to go into river cruising. I've often wondered why there's not a little bit more of the ocean cruise lines that do river cruise lines. We've had Viking start as a river cruise line, and now they do ocean cruises, but it hasn't ever gone the other way. Celebrity has put in an order for 10 river ships, and they're going to start sailing in 2027. So that's not too far off. Those will probably be for sale in the next little while here once they get a little bit more down the road on this.
10 ships. They're serious.
They are. They're going to take the inspiration from those ships from the Celebrity Edge class ship, and they're obviously not going to have some of the features that don't work on a river, but they are taking their inspiration from those ships.
So Nikki and I will be on the Celebrity Ascent next month. It will be my first time getting on an Edge class ship. And I got to be honest, I think I'm going to spend some time just hanging out on the flying carpet.
Yes, which is something that won't be on the river cruise.
A 9-story elevator on a river cruise.
Yeah, on a river cruise.
United Airlines is bringing back their elite status match program. This is good news because I think that they're starting to kind of lose ground to some of the other airlines. I'm assuming that's why they're bringing it back, or at least a reason.
Yeah, so they've brought this in for 2025 where they'll match status with most other airlines. And all you have to do if you want to match the status is there's a form to fill out at united.com. And after approval, you have to take a United flight within 90 days. And then after that flight, you'll be granted your matching elite status.
Are you going to sign up for this? You're a Delta guy mostly, but I know that you've flown United and who's the other one? American.
If I have an opportunity to take a United flight, if it works out, I'll do it. So if I have something coming up, I'll do it just to get the status for a year. I probably wouldn't fly a whole lot on United, but it is nice to have that status.
If United is bringing back their status match program, do any other airlines do that?
In the past, American has done it and Delta has done it, but that was 2 years ago when both of those airlines had a status match. I've not seen anything on status match on at least American or Delta.
Okay, so nothing really.
Nothing really.
U.S. Virgin Islands set a new tourism record in 2024. As I mentioned, Nikki and I are headed there next month. What kind of numbers were they seeing last year?
So they had an increase of almost 6% over the previous record. It doesn't say when that record was, possibly 2019. Pre-COVID, but over their best year ever, they had a 6% increase in 2024. This kind of goes to the trend, and we've talked about this in the past, where people want to go to a tropical beach destination, but don't have a passport. So the Virgin Islands is a place you can go without a passport. And the Virgin Islands is kind of a whole new world. And we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Other than a cruise line, how do we get to the Virgin Islands?
First of all, there are kind of three main islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands. There's St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John. You can get there by flight to St. Thomas and St. Croix. St. John, you can only get there by ferry from the island of St. Thomas. St. Thomas is the most visited of those, followed by St. Croix, and then St. John. St. John, most of the island is a national park, so there's not a lot of development there.
Quick question. Maho Beach, where planes fly in literally just feet over your head. Which island is that on?
That's not in the U.S. Virgin Islands. That's in St. Martin.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Which is a French or Dutch island, depending on what side of the island you're on. You are going to St. Thomas as one of the ports on your cruise.
Okay.
You'll be in St. Thomas.
A lot of saints in there.
Yes. St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, British Virgin Islands, and they're all saints too.
Well, let's talk about St. Thomas first. Some of the things to do there.
St. Thomas is known for its shopping and also its pirate history. As on all of these islands, there's good beaches. You can go to Megan's Bay. What I like about St. Thomas, and this was kind of my very first impression when I stepped off, and it's actually on all of the U.S. Virgin Islands, is they drive on the left side of the road.
Oh boy.
It's the only U.S. territory that drives on the left side of the road. And so you really can feel like you're in a foreign country, but you don't need a passport to get there.
What about St. John?
So St. John, and this is probably my favorite island of all of these. Again, you get there by taking a ferry from St. Thomas, but it's known for its beaches and hiking. Most of the island is a national park. There are a few hotels, a few things that were kind of grandfathered in. Most of the island is a national park, but one of the best beaches probably in the world, which is Trunk Bay. Snorkeling, just a beautiful beach there in St. John.
Let me ask you about snorkeling. Do you snorkel with one of those pool noodles, or do you like going underneath the water?
I like to snorkel with some type of flotation device.
Oh, okay. All right. So you're
just so I don't have to work. I just don't have to work as hard.
So you can just look around.
Yeah.
Without swimming.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one thing at Trunk Bay on St. John is they kind of have a little circuit that you snorkel. There's a little island that you snorkel around, which is a very interesting place to snorkel because it goes through different depths of the bay there. That's a very popular thing to do. There's also a little drink shack up on top of the hill in St. John where you can look over and see the British Virgin Islands. They're all fairly close.
One if by land, two if by sea?
Yes. Yeah.
St. Croix. What do you like doing there?
This island has a lot of history. The thing I think that's interesting about it is how many different countries have ruled this little piece of land. It's flown the flags of Netherlands, England, France, the Knights of Malta, and Denmark in its history. It was once the capital of the Danish West Indies, and it's known for its 18th century butter-colored, red-roofed buildings. This would be a place for beaches, water sports, if you like sailing. It's a little bit more laid back than St. Thomas.
Off air, you had mentioned something about St. Thomas that you didn't mention during this show. Let's go back to St. Thomas for a second.
One particular activity that I like, it's a tram, kind of a sky ride thing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
A viewpoint on top of the mountain. This is located kind of right by the cruise port. So it's a pretty popular thing to do if you're taking a cruise. But you get up there and you have a whole view of the city of Charlotte-de-Mille, which is the capital city there in St. Thomas.
I remember seeing pictures of that going, ooh, we have to do that.
It's a great experience. If you're on St. Thomas, you can just take a day trip to St. John. Very easy thing to do. Go out, hike some of those trails on St. John, visit the beaches. I love the U.S. Virgin Islands, and you don't need a passport to get there.
If you're coming in port on a cruise, do you have enough time to do a day trip to St. John?
Yes, you do. In fact, if you purchase the excursion through the cruise line, the ferry boat comes and picks you up right at the pier of the cruise terminal. You just get on kind of the expedition safari trucks. It'll take you either to Trunk Bay or the Circle Island tour. That's something I highly recommend for cruise passengers, is to do the St. John tours when they're in St. Thomas. Otherwise, if you're on a cruise, you have to go to the other side of the island, which is where the main ferry terminal is at.
So you can do it then?
You can do it.
Oh,
yes.
Good. Okay. Well, I am excited to go. Nikki and I will be there next month. And I am excited to go do all of this stuff. And I owe it all to Mark, honestly. He's the one that booked it for us. If you want to head to the U.S. Virgin Islands, whether it's cruise or you just want to go straight there, call Mark in his office during the break just to get the conversation started. Phone number is 888-718-7717, 888-718-7717. Or you can also go to blueplanetvacations.com. Coming up in the next segment, we've got the hot travel deal of the week, regardless of the destination, but this time we are headed to the land down under. Men at Work. Australia is on sale. That is next when the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show continues. Thank you so much for listening. We will be right back.
Taking you to destinations around the world. The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show is presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show now. 801-649-3700. 801-649-3700. Thanks for listening. We'll be right back.
Inside Travel Talk is brought to you by AMA Waterways. From castles and capitals to vistas and villages, visit some of Europe's most remarkable sites and cities. The award-winning and family-owned river cruise line, AMA Waterways, offers a wide variety of unforgettable itineraries along Europe's iconic rivers, perfectly suited to every traveler's interests. Whether you are passionate about music, history, architecture, or enjoy the finer things in a Europe river cruise on AMA Waterways is the gift that keeps on giving. To set out on your own river cruise journey, contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com.
Now, back to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show right now. 801-649-3700. 801-649-3700. And check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. Here's Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo.
Welcome back inside of the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. Hello there. Hope you're having a terrific weekend. My name is Patrick Wiscombe with my co-host, Mark Faldmo. We love talking travel each and every weekend, and we are immensely grateful to all of you who subscribe to the show, listen to us on the radio network, and subscribe to the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. Coming up in this segment, we have the hot travel deal of the week, and this time we're going down under. But let's first get to the travel news headlines for this week. In light of everything, I kind of get it. There is a plea from Los Angeles hotels. Please come to LA. We need you.
So Los Angeles is kind of experiencing the same issues that Hawaii faced after the Maui fires. What they're saying is less than 1% of the area of Los Angeles was affected by the fires. And so they're asking people not to cancel their trips. Things are still open. Travel industry is, I guess, kind of really fickle. Big newsmakers seem to affect people's travel decisions, even though it probably really shouldn't in some cases. What Los Angeles is faced with is they have over 540,000 people working just in Los Angeles County in the tourism sector. So if people don't travel, those people don't have jobs.
What happened was absolutely significant, but I think the Maui comparison is good, where it made it sound like the entire island of Maui had burned down when it really, from a geographical standpoint, Maui was kind of small.
Yes.
And
even Hawaii, other islands. So Oahu, Kauai, the Big Island, all faced downturns in tourism because of the Maui fire.
All of California. Beautiful. I love LA. I just won't live there.
Yep.
Delta Airlines is set to launch a new LA to Melbourne flight. What details do we have on that?
This is going to be 3 days a week. It's going to fly Los Angeles to Melbourne Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on its new Airbus A350 flight. And that is set to start later this year, I think in May. That is really opening up Australia. Right now, United and Qantas are the only airlines that fly to Melbourne, and now Delta will become another option.
Yet another reason, referencing what we talked about in segment 1, United Airlines bringing back their status match program. Southwest has postponed the start date for installing extra legroom seats.
Yeah, so this is a story we talked about, maybe 2 months ago, where Southwest announced they're going to put in extra legroom seats and start their assigned seating policy. And they were going to start that the middle of 2025, but they have delayed that now until first half of 2026.
Let's get to our hot travel deal of the week, always in this second segment of the show. And this week, we are going down under.
This is a great price to get to Sydney. From Los Angeles, it's $848.
Really?
And it does connect through New Zealand to get to Sydney. But for that price, that connection is probably worth it.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably $500 to even $700 lower than the normal price to get to Sydney. There are blackout dates.
Sure.
You can add a stopover in New Zealand if you would like to. There's a fee, I think it's $75 to add a stopover in New Zealand.
So let's talk about some of the things to do in Sydney. Where would you start?
Sydney, I visited twice. Sydney, both of them have been relatively short. They've been less than 6 days. A lot of people say that's a long flight for just such a short time, but I actually enjoyed that. Things to do in Sydney. The first thing I would get is the Sydney Explorer Pass. With the Explorer Pass, you get to choose a few different attractions you can do. You can choose 3 of 12 of the main attractions in Sydney to do. Included in that pass is the Sydney Zoo, the Hop On, Hop Off tour, and the Sydney Aquarium. Those are probably the 3 I would choose, but there are other options in the Sydney Explorer Pass.
You mentioned there was about 12 What are the other 9, just so listeners can know what they can choose?
So the other things you can choose within that pass are the Sydney Tower Eye, which is the radio tower building that you go up. There's a revolving restaurant up there.
Okay.
The National Maritime Museum. You can take a lunch cruise. There is an option for the Sydney Opera House tour. You can take a jet boat ride in the bay.
I know what Patrick's doing. I didn't realize how much I like being on boats. That's kind of a new thing that I've found about myself.
Yeah, I love being out on the water, out on the ocean.
What are some of the other things to do?
Probably one of the most exciting things, I think, is the Sydney Bridge climb.
Ooh.
And so this is where you get hooked up in harnesses and you walk up to the top of one of the stanchions of the Sydney Bridge.
Oh, man.
Great views.
Oh,
there.
I bet.
That's a very popular thing to do. One of the things I enjoyed most was taking a ferry over to Manly Island. It's kind of a beachy, touristy area. Luna Park, which is a kind of a theme park. It's inspired by Coney Island in New York City. The entrance is a big, happy clown face at Luna Park there. Bondi Beach, which is one of the famous beaches there. One thing I really enjoyed was taking a Sydney Harbor cruise at nighttime, see the skyline at night.
Yeah.
Kind of took a dinner cruise to do that. Probably the thing I enjoyed the most was a day trip to the Blue Mountains. The Blue Mountains is a scenic area. It's a full day trip, but a scenic area near Sydney. Along the way, you stop at a kangaroo kind of sanctuary place where you get to feed the kangaroos and kind of play with the kangaroos. The most favorite part of this day for me was the Scenic World Railway. It's an old mining railway, and it's the world's steepest railway at 52 degrees incline.
Oh, I'm actually kind of impressed that it can go up that steep of a incline.
Yes. So it's actually hooked to a cable. So it's pulled
I would hope
up.
so. Wow.
It's pulled up. There's great views at the top. And then when you get down at the bottom of the railway, there's hiking trails, kind of a nature preserve. It was a wonderful day. Even though I've only been to Sydney on short trips, I think it's well worth that. And, if you want to extend your trip, you can go up to the Great Barrier Reef, you can go up to Port Stanley, which is rainforest. You can go out to the desert, Ayers Rock. There's lots you can do in Australia from Sydney.
What do you call a lazy kangaroo?
I don't know what.
A pouch potato.
A pouch potato. That's great.
Sorry for the bad humor.
No, humor is always good, even if it's bad.
Okay, I had that coming. You know what's funny is that Nikki and I have actually been talking about Australia, but we didn't know if we wanted to fly or do a cruise. And honestly, I don't know what we're going to do now.
Yeah. Either way, it's a great way to visit.
Go to Australia. If you've always had desires to go to Australia, call Mark. Call him during the break. Just get the conversation started. No obligation. 888-718-7717. 888-718-7717. And you can also see the Australian vacation options on blueplanetvacations.com. When we come back, it is the infamous Just Cruising segment. This week, we literally have 5 great cruise deals. Do not miss this next segment of the show coming up after the news update. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your weekend. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show with Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show now. 801-649-3700. That's 801-649-3700. And check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. We'll be right back.
This segment of Inside Travel Talk is sponsored by Eldorado Spa Resorts. Escape to Cancun's Riviera Maya with authentic, all-inclusive luxury at an El Dorado spa resort. To book your romantic beach getaway, contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com.
Okay, we're back. You're listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, we will be talking about the 5 cruise deals of the week, the most cruise deals we have ever discussed in one segment, and we're rolling it back to 1987. We're talking Patrick Swayze, Jennifer Grey. We have a live Dirty Dancing concert. The Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, contains travel deals, promotions, and offers that may be time sensitive. All offers and information were accurate when the show aired. Travel deals and offers change constantly and are capacity controlled and subject to change without notice.
This is the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com, America's best travel advisors. Call or text the show right now, 801-649-3700. 801-649-3700. And now, here are your hosts, Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo.
All aboard for segment 3 of the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. We hope that you are having a terrific weekend. My name is Patrick Wiscombe alongside Mark Faldmo, broadcasting live here in Salt Lake City from the Wiscombe Faldmo radio studios. And thanks to all of our radio affiliates, podcast listeners. We couldn't do the show without you. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your weekend. Coming up in this segment of the show, of course, we've got the travel news headlines, but we've also got the cruise deal of the week. We just simply call it the infamous Just Cruising segment, and we've got 5 cruise deals. We've never had that many before in a single segment. But before we get to the cruise deals of the week, let's get to the travel news headlines. Carnival is tightening the rules for minors' accommodations. What does that mean?
Yeah, so this really affects families traveling together. So the new policy for Carnival is guests 14 years of age and under must be booked with a relative or guardian 25 years or older in the same cabin or in a connecting cabin. The previous policy allowed for guests 12 and younger to occupy a cabin directly across the hall or next door. But now, again, for guests 14 years of age or younger, they have to be in the same cabin with a relative or guardian.
I'd like to hear the backstory of why that policy changed.
And that's actually a little bit more in line with what some of the other cruise lines are doing.
Oh, so it is.
When we book families, we usually have to put one parent in a room with some kids and then another parent in a room with kids just to get around their age policies. Other ages have not changed. So guests 15 to 17 can be in their own room, separated by up to 2 cabins, as long as there's a parent or guardian 25 years of age or older in that main cabin there.
What do we do about individuals aged 18 to 20? 18
to 20 can be anywhere on the ship, but they do have to be linked to a parent or guardian at least 25 years or older.
So not even 21.
Yeah. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So to sell with no restrictions, both guests have to be 21 years of age or older to sell on their own. The exception to that is if they're legally married couples.
Okay.
Or qualified military personnel can also sail if they're 18 or 20 in a cabin, but it's very restrictive.
So in the eyes of cruise companies, an adult is 25, not 21.
25 if there's a minor involved.
Okay, got it. One of the private islands that I've never been to is called Great Stirrup Cay. I think it's owned by NCL or Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings. They announced that they're doing some construction or pier construction work. What's the time frame on that?
This is Norwegian Cruise Line Holding, which is Norwegian Cruise Line, Oceania Cruises, and Regent Seven Seas Cruises. They all use Great Stirrup Cay. Previously, this private island did not have a pier. So you had to tender in. The Tender Inn was an improvement from what it was before. The first probably 10 times I visited this island, you went on almost like a World War II landing craft. So they would beach it, and then the front would come down, and you'd walk off like you're doing a beach landing. It's pretty unique way to get to the island. This is also the first private island in the cruise industry. So Norwegian was the first. They later added a little harbor where the tenders could come in, made it a little bit easier to get to the island. But now they're adding a pier, which construction started earlier this year and should be ready by the end of the year. Norwegian was really the first cruise line to really enhance their private island. We've often talked about MSC's private island and all the neat things to do there. Norwegian was the first cruise line to really make their island more than just a beach day, and should make it so the ships don't have to miss the island as much. A lot of times during inclement weather or windy conditions, the ship misses the private island.
My perception is Royal Caribbean has really outdone NCL, and even MSC may have outdone NCL. Or is that not fair?
I don't think that's fair. Norwegian's island is comparable or in some ways better than MSC's island as far as the facilities that are on there. Now, to begin with, it was just beach chairs and a little thatched roof place where they served food. So it was a very basic island. But when they made the investment a few years ago, it was the first to make those big investments. Norwegian was the first to realize that these private islands could be the most popular port on the itinerary, which they have become with most cruise lines. Royal Caribbean's island is amazing with what it has facilities-wise.
Is that Perfect Day at Coco Cay?
Yeah, Perfect Day at Coco Cay, which is actually, you could swim from Norwegian's island to Royal Caribbean's island, except for the cruise employees that are sitting there stopping people from doing that. That's how close they are.
Okay, so they're that close.
They're that close.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, if you go to the Blue Planet Facebook page, the other week when I flew into Nassau, I flew right over the islands. I took a picture of it so you can see how close the two islands are.
I could just see police in between the islands. Hey, out of the water. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's get out. Come on.
Yeah.
One of the most popular movies from 1987 was Dirty Dancing. Jennifer Grey, Patrick Swayze, and it looks like, well, Patrick won't be there. Well, I guess Jennifer Grey won't be either, but they are bringing Dirty Dancing in concert to MSC's World America, a ship that both of us will be on in, when is it, April? Yeah, I think it's April.
In April.
Yeah, okay. So Dirty Dancing in concert, that's the headline. So that's what we'll be seeing.
Yeah, so they just made this announcement. This will be one of their main theater shows. MSC is really trying to make inroads with the American vacationer. MSC seems a little bit more European, and so they've built the ship, MSC World America, to really appeal towards the American traveler. And adding a show like Dirty Dancing in concert, I think will do that. You know, it's great music that everybody knows. I think this will be popular. This is actually one of 7 new productions that MSC will have on this ship. They have an acrobatic show. They have an illusionist show, which MSC calls the largest ever illusion production show at sea. They have a special effects show, which is put on by the people that did special effects in Back to the Future, Mission Impossible, The Mummy, and then they have a live pop concert.
So when we had Laura Okanowski of MSC Cruises on, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago? She said that it was kind of the modern beauty of Europe, but with American comforts. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Always in this segment of the show, bottom of the hour, we've got the cruise deal of the week. And in this case, we've got the top 5 cruise deals of the week. So let's start there, and then let's talk about how people can get in touch with you or the website to book these vacations.
This week, I thought I'd just highlight some of the cruises that are listed on blueplanetvacations.com. In cruise deals, I have a section called the top 5 cruise deals, where I really go each week and try and find the best cruise deals that are out there. Currently, there are 11 cruise deals listed on this page, but we'll highlight a few of them because I think there's some really good offers. I think the best deal that is listed there is a 7-day Alaska cruise round trip from Vancouver on Norwegian Cruise Line.
Do we know what ship that one's on?
Yes, it's on the Norwegian Sun, which is one of the smaller ships in Norwegian's fleet. But what makes this a particularly good deal is the date and the price. So it's on June 20th, right in the middle of the summer, which is the perceived best time to go to Alaska. But the balcony cabins on this start at $13.89 per person.
Whoa. Yeah.
Where if you look at other cruise lines' balconies, they're well above 2,000.
Yeah, I was going to say.
For this time frame in June.
Yeah, so summertime is Alaska prime time.
Yeah. This cruise, again, leaves from Vancouver, goes to Ketchikan, Sitka, Juneau, and goes to Icy Strait. So I think that's the overall best cruise deal that's out there.
That's deal number 1 of 5. What's deal number 2?
I'd say deal number 2, let's go to the other side of the country. 7-day Canada and New England cruise. This is September 6th. So this would be to the start of the fall foliage. No guarantee if there will be fall colors at that time, but there could be. Again, September 6th on Princess Cruises. Balcony cabin starts at $9.89.
Wow.
Which is great for that.
Even though you can't guarantee the colors, you can guarantee that there will be leaves on the tree somehow.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because the inside cabin is almost the same price as the balcony cabin. So just go with the balcony cabin on that.
Mm-hmm. Deal number 3
is a 7-day Norwegian Fjords cruise. This is on Cunard Cruise Line, leaves from Southampton, July 18th, right in the middle of the good season to go to the Norwegian Fjords. Balcony cabin starts at $17.69 per person.
Wow. What
I like about this one is how port intensive it is. Goes to Stavanger in Norway, goes to Hardanger Fjord, goes to Skolden, and goes to Ålesund. Ålesund is one of my favorite places in Norway. From there, you can get to a place called the Troll Road, and it's a switchback. Goes up to like 10,000 feet. It's a pretty interesting port.
What's the date on that one?
Yeah, and so the date on that one is July 18th.
What's deal number 4?
Deal number 4, we're going to go to the Caribbean. This is October 12th on MSC Cruises on the MSC Seashore. So inside start at $548 per person, and a balcony cabin starts at $769.
Wow. I've got to hand it to MSC. They are coming into the American market, and I know that they've been doing it for a while, but my point is they are breaking in, and they're doing it with pricing, and they've got nice ships too.
Yes, they do.
New ships.
And the Seashore, we were both on the Seashore earlier this year.
Yep.
And actually, this is the itinerary that you did. So leaves from Port Canaveral, Ocean Cay, Cozumel, and Costa Maya.
Deal number 5 in the infamous Just Cruising segment is...
Let's see. I'm having a hard time choosing between the remaining of the 11 that are in that. A 11-day Iceland and UK cruise.
Ooh, good choice.
So this is August 6th on Virgin Voyages. So this leaves from Portsmouth, so basically London, goes to Amsterdam, goes to Lurik in the Shetland Islands. Last week we talked about the Faroe Islands, the Shetland Islands, very similar. And then it does a circumnavigation of Iceland, goes to 3 different ports in Iceland, ending in Reykjavik. This one starts at $23.69, so it's a little bit more expensive than what we've been talking about. But for 11 days, that is a pretty good rate, and it's a very interesting itinerary.
And the deals that you've been talking about, they can obviously call you. Let me just give out the numbers we go to break here. 888-718-7717, 888-718-7717. But I think one of the coolest things that you have on blueplanetvacations.com is not only the top 5 cruise deals of the week, but you've got an entire cruise section on the website that you can kind of play around with dates and destinations and then just book it right on the website.
You can. Yep.
It's been very helpful. Honestly, I reference it. I don't know if you've seen the stats, but Patrick has spent a little bit of time on your site.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great little tool for people to look at when searching for cruises.
Take advantage of the offer. 888-718-7717, 888-718-7717, or blueplanetvacations.com. When we come back, we've got Mark's travel tips. We'll wrap up. The U.S. has issued a do not travel warning for parts of Mexico. That's just one of the stories we'll talk about when the Inside Travel Talk podcast, a radio show, continues. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be right back.
Explore your world. You're listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show with Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo. Call or text the show now. 801-649-3700. That's 801-649-3700. And check out the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. We'll be right back.
This segment of Inside Travel Talk is sponsored by Starkippers. For over 30 years, Starkippers has offered unique, authentic tall ship sailing experiences featuring creative itineraries throughout the Mediterranean, Caribbean, and Central America. To book your unique Star Clipper sailing adventure, contact Blue Planet Vacations at 888-718-7717 or blueplanetvacations.com.
This is the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show with Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo, presented by blueplanetvacations.com. America's best travel advisors. Call the show right now. 801-649-3700. 801-649-3700. And now, your hosts, Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo.
Final segment of this week's Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show. Thank you to all of our listeners, all of our subscribers for taking the time to listen to us. We don't have a show. We don't have a business. So I just want to say thank you. I hope you can hear the sincerity in my voice. Mark and I love talking travel, and honestly, we can't do it without you. If you're new to the show or if you're just tuning in right now, this show is all about travel. It's only about travel, and we want everyone to get out and explore the world. Whatever part of the world you want to go to, we can help you with. So, with that being said, coming up in this segment, we've got the travel news headlines, and we're also going to talk about Route 66. Mark, how many times have you been on Route 66?
That I know of, probably 2 times, but probably a little bit more than that.
Route 66 is fascinating to me. And so we'll talk about that here briefly in this final segment of the show. But let's start with the travel news headlines. As we went to break, I mentioned that the United States has issued a do not travel warning for parts of Mexico. Let's just start there. What parts of Mexico?
It's the border areas of Mexico. In the travel world, this kind of comes down, like we were talking about earlier with Los Angeles, to geography. Some people hear that the State Department adds a travel advisory to Mexico, not realizing that those travel advisories are compartmentalized state by state in Mexico. This is the border areas that travelers go to, which would be Mexico City area, the Yucatan. Those remain at level 1, exercise normal precautions. Other places that travelers go to, like Puerto Vallarta, are exercise increased precautions.
Yeah, so level 2.
But still a level 2.
Right.
Places like Paris and London are all level 2. This is a good chance for people to think about looking at these warnings. If you go to the Blue Planet Vacations website, in the bottom footer, there's a resource page where you can click on the State Department's warnings and search country by country, which, if you click on Mexico, it will break it down kind of region by region as to what the travel warnings are. And also a good time to talk about the State Department's STEP program.
Yeah, the STEP program, basically, level 1, just exercise normal caution. Level 2 is increased caution. Step 3 is is, I forgot what step 3 is.
Reconsider travel.
Yeah, reconsider travel. Step 4 is just do not travel.
Again, on the Blue Planet vacation, there's a thing where travelers can enroll with the State Department. It's called the Smart Travel Enrollment Program. And this will let the State Department know where travelers are. And if there's anything that is needed, it helps if there's a natural disaster and you have to be evacuated. It just lets the State Department know where travelers are at and gives you up-to-date information on what's happening in the country.
BluePlanetVacations.com. Just go to the very bottom. Is that where it is? I think it is.
Yep. In the bottom footer.
Okay.
It's in resources.
Okay. Let's say that you need to cancel your trip. I haven't had to file a claim, but I have had travel insurance. This seems like a natural way to just talk about travel insurance for a minute and the benefits of having it.
Travel insurance, and we've said many times, it's highly recommended to protect your travel investment. Booking a trip is an investment. You want to protect that. A lot of travel insurance policies will cover pre-existing conditions if you pay for the policy within a certain time frame from booking your trip. But most importantly, they can protect you from if you need to cancel for covered reasons. But while you're traveling, the health insurance benefits are very important. Our private health insurance here won't cover you in most foreign countries. It's a very good idea to have that insurance that will cover for sickness. If you get an injury, we've told the story several times on air. I had a client that had not an aneurysm, but it had something happened in his brain and had to be medevaced from Australia back to the US. The bill was something like $350,000.
Jeez.
And the medical insurance covered that. And so you don't want anything to happen, but things can happen when you travel. So protecting your trip with travel insurance is always a good idea. You don't buy insurance hoping to use it. So
let me switch gears here. Let me talk about airplane mode on your phone. When flying, I've noticed that the pilot or the attendants are saying, put your phone in airplane mode.
This is something that passengers are kind of going back and forth on. They don't want to put their phones in airplane mode.
Which I don't understand. What's the big deal?
Which I don't understand. Yeah. I think if someone was making a phone call next to me, that would be very annoying in a flight. In Europe, as long as you have 5G service, you don't have to put your phone in airplane mode.
Oh, interesting.
I think they still say you can't make calls, but if the plane will pick up data, you can use that 5G data. But in the US, it doesn't matter what you have. It is still the official rule to put your phone in airplane mode or turn it off when flying.
Yeah, just do it. Last thing before we take off. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Route 66 here in America, celebrating 100 years. And one thing I didn't know is that it went from downtown Chicago to Los Angeles, basically the Santa Monica Pier in LA. How many times have you been on Route 66? Knowingly?
Knowingly, I've been on it twice, mainly in the Illinois area. Last time I was in Chicago, I actually sought out a little hot dog stand that was on Route 66. Route 66 goes Chicago to St. Louis, to Tulsa, to Oklahoma City, then across to the panhandle of Texas, across New Mexico, Arizona, and into Los Angeles area, ending at Santa Monica Pier. One thing I found interesting when looking at this, the National Park Service has designated over 250 structures along Route 66 on the National Register of Historic Places. There's lots of good restaurants, diners. Chicago area, Lou Mitchell's Diner is one of those favorite and famous diners. One place that I've kind of always wanted to visit is the Wigwam Motel in San Bernardino, California. I don't know why, just always as a kid, I've seen that pop up on movies and think that's been interesting.
Did you say the Wigwam Motel?
Wigwam Motel.
Wait, isn't that the one with like teepees and...
Yep, they're all teepees. Yeah, all the rooms are teepees.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. It started business in 1949, and it looks like rates are basically like $100 a night, $90, $110, and these teepees have doors.
Yes. Yeah.
Very motel style. Pull up in front of your teepee and check in, and that is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there are some really interesting things along Route 66. Some old kind of classic 50s style motels and cafes, old filling stations. I just think it would be fascinating to drive the whole route. One place that I've kind of always wanted to go is Mr. D's Route 66 Diner in Kingman, Arizona.
Yeah, I've been through Kingman, yes.
Yeah, and so, that's something that close enough for us here in Salt Lake, I could get down to if I really wanted to. For those road trip enthusiasts, I think this is probably on everyone's bucket list, and I would love to do that someday.
One of the things about the Wigwam Motel is that discover comfort in your unique teepee. That is not something that you normally see. And they do have a swimming pool. What a fun way to end the show. I knew we were going to talk about Route 66, but what I didn't know is that we were going to zero in on the Wigwam Hotel. I'm glad that that's one of your memories.
Yeah.
What a fun show this week. Thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your weekend. Take advantage of the 11 cruise deals on blueplanetvacations.com. We talked about the U.S. Virgin Islands. We talked about the flight from Australia. What a great time to be alive, that we can just hop on a plane, that we can hop in a car, go see the world. Go do it. Call Mark in his office if you need help booking anything. 888-718-7717, 888-718-7717. Also go to blueplanetvacations.com to book those vacations. You can listen to this show again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. right here on this radio station and on the Blue Planet Vacations radio network. And you can also stream, download, and subscribe to the podcast at InsideTravelTalk.com. We are on all of the major podcast platforms. Well, that's it. We've done our job. It's your turn. Get out and explore the world, because you never know what curveballs life is going to throw at you. As we like to say, live your life deliberately. Live your life intentionally. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next Saturday and Sunday.
That's it. That's the end of the show. You've been listening to the Inside Travel Talk podcast and radio show with Patrick Wiscombe and Mark Faldmo, presented by BluePlanetVacations.com. Book your adventure right now. Call 888-718-7717. That's 888-718-7717. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.